Hello, I'm Phil Jones, a senior lecturer at UA92, but my previous career was in broadcasting for the likes of CNN and BBC Sport. It spanned over 40 years, and I still occasionally dabble now and do things like theatre book tours. I did the Commonwealth Games a couple of years ago for the global hosts, so I try and keep my hand in and bring it back to UA92 if I can. And yes, that is me with Usain Bolt and David Beckham, just so you know. I got to interview many great names, the great and the good through the years, from presidents and prime ministers to pop stars and Pele. I've been very fortunate. But you might ask, where did it all start for me? Well, it was just down the road here from UA92. We're here in Trafford. I was born and bred in Salford, and I started at a press agency in Salford when I came out of an NCTJ course. That was a one-year kind of journalistic course. Nowhere near as good as the kind of courses we do here, I have to say. The grounding was great and it served me well, but there's so much more now to learn and take in, and the degree courses that exist now just didn't exist then. And I probably knew from an early age, probably 14 or 15, what I wanted to do, and I was really fortunate to be able to fulfill my dream in the sports journalism industry. Now, a question that's often asked, how to become a presenter? The most common question in my line of work, I think, through the years. Now, I'd say there's no fast track to being a presenter, to be honest with you, unless you get a really, really lucky break early on, but that's very, very rare. It takes hard work, it takes perseverance, it also takes talent. So throughout my career, there were some lucky breaks I got, so I would also say there's no small amount of good fortune in it as well, because a door will open sometimes. It's up to you whether you walk through that door and take the opportunity. But I think when you've walked through the door, you've then got to have the talent to back it up. You've then got to have the hard work to back it up. So never think that a lucky break means you've made it. You know, that's just the start of a longer journey. Here at UA92, this is the kind of thing I would teach you, sort of put across my expertise to you. Obviously in the presenting sphere, that's number one. We'll touch on some writing a little bit later as well. And the first thing I would say is try not to be a rabbit in the headlights. Easier said than done. So many students say to me, I want to be a presenter, I want to be a presenter, well, which is great. And there are so many more opportunities nowadays than there were back in my day when I was starting out in terms of on-camera work. You can even create your own YouTube channel, can't you, nowadays? So there are lots of ways you can get into the industry that way. But the first thing is trying to make yourself relaxed. Find a device that works for you so you're not this startled rabbit in the headlights, as I say. Having a healthy edge, a few butterflies is fine. You know, that nervous feeling in your stomach, that's totally fine. That shows you care, and that's a natural thing. But just try not to let it overwhelm you. The more familiar you are with your script and what you've got to say will take away the nerves as well. That's a big thing. And the more you practice your pieces to camera, run them through in your head, run them through as you're driving somewhere to a location maybe, and then when you're in situ and about to do the piece to camera, just have a couple of run through. You'll be amazed how relaxed you become. I'll be honest with you, there were times when I was in a certain situation where I got extra nervous depending on the occasion, but very often you're shot sort of from the waist up, and so my legs used to go a little bit, be a little bit nervous. You couldn't see that. So as long as I kept control of the mic and didn't show my nerves through the top part of my body, I was fine. As I say, it's a natural thing. It will happen. But the more you practice, the more you can sort of dissipate the nerves. Some other things, think about where you'll be standing. As I've just said, how much of your body is in shot. Do you have a mic in one hand? Do you have a clip mic like I've got on now? You might have a clip mic here on your t-shirt or shirt or something like that as well. Sometimes it's on a wire that's fed up through your shirt. Will you be holding a script? If you're a bit nervous, the script might shake if it's paper. So you might want something on your phone or on an iPad or something like that. What will you do with your arms? Like I use my arms a lot when I'm delivering content, as you can see. So it's that kind of thing again, that again takes away some of the nervousness. So you're just trying to be as natural as possible without being a windmill, really, with your arms. When it comes to delivery of your voice, it's a really important thing, and everybody who starts out as a presenter probably starts out a little bit too softly spoken and think that's enough. It can be if you've got really lovely intonation, that kind of up and down, that kind of lilting kind of thing. It's one of those things that you develop over time. It's not necessarily a natural thing. some youngsters I deal with have it more than others, but you can definitely develop it. But the forceful voice you can develop straight away. So when you're delivering a piece to camera or any voiceover, you can go for take one, go for take two, go for take three, and I guarantee that the more you do it, the more forceful you'll be. And then when you've heard it back, you'll realize you can go even louder. So take it up a notch even more. So these are all things you can be practicing now if you want to go into that presenting, broadcasting sphere. Addressing the camera as well is an important thing, knowing how to do it, when to look at the camera, when to look at your interviewee. It might sound like really basic stuff, but it's not. And when you're in a situation where you might be on the streets filming something, you can't be overly distracted by external factors. One of the easiest things when you're starting out, and I see it a lot, and probably I did it a lot, is when you're addressing the camera, somebody moves behind the camera in the distance there, and you go, oh, he distracted me. Well, that can't be a thing for doing take after take after take. There's going to be movement around you at certain times. And the only time you would stop maybe is a plane went overhead or somebody shouted something out and it wasn't good for sound, but you don't want to be distracted by just the periphery of things going on. So stay focused. Look at the camera throughout your delivery as well. That's a really important thing. Location as well. It depends where you do your pieces to camera. Are they on an auto cue? If you're sitting in a studio setting, like I'm here in the UA92 Media Lab in our studio. So here we have auto cue. I'm not using it now. I'm just addressing the camera directly, but we would have that. So that'd be a more controlled environment, a quieter environment. You wouldn't have to feel like you need to be shouty at all. But if you're outside in a remote location, there could be crowd noise, as well as all the other things you have to factor in, like temperature, the sun beating down on you and things like that. But generally, in terms of noise, you might have to raise your voice to talk above the extraneous sound. Now, capturing the mood of the piece, I look quite serious on that shot there. That's me at the Winter Olympics in 2002, I want to say, in Salt Lake City, if memory serves me right. I was working for CNN back in the day. And it's important that you match the tone of your presentation with the theme or subject matter, really. So a serious subject means a serious face, and forget the smiles. Trust me, I see lots of people starting out in the business who think they've got to be smiley all the time. And you might have even seen it on TV yourself, and it just is really quite jarring. Don't do that, whatever you do. But if you're delivering a light-hearted piece or something a little bit more joyous, then I'd expect you to smile, and it would look odd if you didn't. So, so pitch that right. Either way, try and think of the camera as your friend. It's an inanimate object. It is a tricky thing to do and to master, but in the end, think of it as your pal, and you won't go far wrong. Maybe think you're addressing a member of your family or something like that. It'll all help with the addressing the camera. And the other thing I would say is show some enthusiasm. The Wimbledon shot there, I'm about to burst into something on court 2, I think that might have been, back in the day. The opening of court 2, I think I was doing a piece for, yeah. And so that was a big event for Wimbledon on the day, so I'm about to burst into life and smile and show some enthusiasm. So enthusiastic delivery, but only when it feels right. Having a passion for your subject will help with that. When you're doing pieces to camera in this kind of more joyous occasion, keep the energy up. But regardless, even if you're delivering a more sober piece, you can still keep the energy high in a different way and help with engagement. And if you're not enthusiastic about your piece, how can you expect anybody else to be, basically? And here's one: try not to present mid-air if you can possibly avoid it. I got roped into this many moons ago. This is in the early 2000s as well. Often I used to film sights and sounds pieces around major cities when I went to a major event with the BBC or CNN. This was in Munich, and they had this big kind of fair thing on. One of the attractions was a crane, and you could strap in to like a ski jumping suit and skis. And so the clever idea from the producer was for me to go up and be mic'd up, and I'm smiling as I'm going up, but trust me, I wasn't when I was up there. It was a bit scary. But in all seriousness, if you came to UA92, we'd insist on the things when you're out filming to, it's called a risk assessment, basically, not to put yourself in harm's way. Don't take unnecessary risks. Don't turn your back on danger when you're doing a piece to camera as well. That's a really important thing. So all those kind of things you'll learn around the subject. Now, for many people, presenting equals glamour. It can be. It's not always, though. But you won't get to that presenting position if you don't get the basics right in the first place, which is something I try and instill in all students at UA92. Our one-to-one connection helps with that. With so many of our students, it allows this kind of attention to detail, really, where I can sit with you or the other lecturers can sit with you and help you with this kind of thing. And one of the major areas I like to instill in students is getting the basics right in terms of journalistic writing. As that quote says there, the thing about the basics is they don't really change. So if you get the basics nailed early on, you can more quickly grow in other areas, honing in your skills in, say, match report writing, feature writing, delivering clever scripts for broadcast. I'll run through some of the things that I would go through with you in a class just so you get an idea, and it's something you can start using now if you're practicing your writing at any point now, which I strongly suggest that you do and hone in your skills even before you get to university. One of the most common mistakes is where you use a comma and full stops. So reading out word back out loud to yourself in the privacy of your own room is really useful. Write something and you'll see where the little pregnant pauses should come, where it might be just a comma, a short pause, and you'll see where you've made a point. You need to end the sentence with a full stop and move on with a new point. Very often there's a kind of a tendency for students to do long rambling sentences with lots of commas in between. If you can nail that bit of writing down, you're a long way down the road to succeeding. Trust me, shorter sentences are always better. The word however is not a good one for basic journalistic writing, but if it is used, it shouldn't link a sentence. So I'll say, if you're writing, use the word but rather than however. However might be fine in kind of academic writing, but journalistic writing, it's a no-no. So a line I've used on the slide, Thomas Tuchel is adamant this current crop of England players can win the next World Cup and create history for a success-starved nation. However, this comes with a few warnings from the German. In that wrong example there, the comma leads into the however. The next one where it says better, you'll see I've put a full stop. However, with a capital H, the pause should come after nation. But better still, the last one, if you use a dash and the word but, you've sorted out your punctuation, you've sorted out the flow of the sentence, it just sounds journalistically better. A simple thing, but a big thing. Another thing is always to put people first. That's a really key thing. In any story you write, if you're writing an introduction to a story, if it's not got a person in it or people in it, I'll ask you why. It should always have that. You'll read stories online, and I read them all the time, where that won't be the case. And that's, to me, lazy journalism. So start out in the right way, put people in your story. The example here, a family of 5, 3 of them children under 8, escaped a house fire in Derbyshire last night. That's far better than just saying a house fire in Derbyshire was brought under control last night and there are no reported injuries. You're putting people at the heart of it. Another few tips, let's rattle through some of these. Numbers, it's always a word and not digits at the start of a sentence if you're using a number. So 30 spelled out as opposed to 30. And then another thing that's really important to carry forward with you in any form of writing, when you're writing 1 to 9, it should always be spelled out and not digits. After that, 10 and onwards, it can be digits. When you're relating numbers to age, there are a few ways of setting them out. I'll put them on this particular slide for you. Age 33, you can see, you can put at 33-year-old with hyphens or 33 within a name and address set up like that. You can start a sentence with but and. That's another thing. So you can have a capital A and start a sentence. You can have a capital B and start a sentence. That's 100% accepted in journalism. So if you're not doing that now and you are using that pesky word, however, ditch it. Start using but instead. And always check names of people, places. Careless mistakes are a big no-no as well. Inaccuracy sort of points out to your reader that you don't care greatly. It's a big turn off that. So be careful of that. And here's another one. You might not even know what an Oxford comma is, but it's that little comma that comes after that sentence there. It was a fun trip, comma, and we saw most of Paris. In academic writing, maybe in some books you read, you'll see commas like that. In journalism, you need to ditch the comma. The Oxford comma needs to go. The fewer bits of punctuation in journalistic writing, the better. Now, quotes, when you're interviewing people for your stories, I'll always encourage you to interview people, put quotes in your stories. They lift a piece. But when you're doing that, you've always got to quote them accurately. Don't think you can just fudge it a little bit and kind of, make it sound sound better or make it sound like, oh, well, they kind of meant this and they kind of said that. No, you can't do any of that. It's got to be strictly accurate. And if you're not sure of the accuracy of a quote, don't use it. Laying out quotes is really, really important. And this is something that might take you a little bit of time to get used to, but there are a couple of ways of laying out quotes, but that's it. So he said, colon, open, double quote marks, capital T, and at the end of a sentence, full stop, close quote marks. So it's always double quotation marks. There's always a colon before. I always say use words like said rather than remarked, commented, shouted, anything like that. That's a bit more feature writing. So there's a very simple way to do it, and you can put the he said bit to the end of a sentence, comma, close quotes, he said, and they're the only ways to lay out quotes. So if you get that nailed as well before you head to university, you'll be doing well. So time to get practicing. You get the idea anyway. If you work on the basics in the here and now, practice your writing, maybe start a sports blog or something like that. And in terms of the other side of things, presenting, if you want to be a commentator or broadcaster, do it into the mirror. Hold a brush in your hand and imagine what it's like to hold the mic and deliver it. Record something into your phone, play it back. What do you sound like? Can you work on your intonation? Read around your subject, read magazines, read newspapers. It might not be a thing, but pick one up every now and again. At least read them online, whatever you do. Be across your subject, and then look how other people do it. Who do you admire? Who would you like to emulate? And try and do a bit of practicing. It's also never too early to start a portfolio of work, I would say. And a lot of students who come through here on open days, applicant visitor days, I'll always say to them, have you got a website? Have you got some kind of physical calling card that you could show me some work that you've done to show me you're committed to the industry? Many prospective students don't, which is fine, it's understandable, but I want to sow that seed early for something. There are free websites like Wix you could use. And I'm not talking about creating this massively extensive website, maybe just something with a few pages that showcases you with your details on there, a couple of bits of work you've done, maybe what you look like, maybe you in action doing something, interviewing somebody at a game with a player, whatever it may be. And then you can just build that portfolio through your time at university. But whenever you're reaching out then for work experience or paid work even through your time at university and you're building that portfolio, that's your calling card. And I had a student recently who was reaching out to work with The Athletic and do some summer work for them, and they're going to invite him down and he is going to end up doing some work experience with them, which is fantastic. But one of the lines on the letter he got back I noticed was, we saw how committed you are to the industry. And that meant a lot to them. Because he wasn't just saying, oh, can you give me a job? Can you give me a little bit? I've got no evidence to prove that I want to do it, but I'm great. He showed he was great. He had a portfolio of work he could show them. He was already doing work outside of UA 92. He's created his own podcast. So it's doing all those kind of things that are going to get you ahead of the curve, really. So try and think about that. And in terms of other frequently asked questions for me, what's the best way to get my foot in the door is one. And really what I've been alluding to just now is probably the key to it, really. It's that showing you want to do it. So if you are going up against other students who are creating their own content, who are putting things out there on socials, who are writing a blog or have a podcast, have a channel on YouTube, whatever it may be, and you're not doing any of that, then obviously it's going to be more difficult for you to bypass them to get the opportunity. So getting your foot in the door is showing that willing, putting that hard work in early, and that means now, even before you get to university maybe, to build up that portfolio and show you're committed to the industry. That's what I did when I was starting out. I was at a sixth form college and we didn't have a college magazine, so I started one. So I was the editor of that for a couple of years, and that helped. And I ran for another couple of things within the university to show ran for student council and did other things that were extracurricular to prove that I had that added something, really. And that got me into the NCTJ course where 500 people were going for 30 places. So if I'd sat there in that interview room with those lecturers and said, oh, I haven't got any evidence of anything I do, I've not done a college magazine, but I really want to do it, then I might not have made the cut, so that's all I'm trying to impress on you. And in terms of the courses we do here, again, there's always a question of, should I do sports journalism? Should I do sports media and communications? The clearest delineation I can make for these two areas is if you're thinking of being a sports journalism in the written field, broadcasting, commentating, presenting, then sports journalism is probably for you. If you're more into social media marketing, any kind of marketing and advertising at all, you might like the idea of working for a big sports brand like Adidas, then maybe sports media communications is more for you. That could also be more for you if you're into graphic design and that kind of thing. Because what will happen is, in the first year, you'll work in 3 blocks together as combined cohorts, and then you'll separate into one block for journalists. For example, it's Introduction to Sports Journalism in the first year. Then the next year you'll be in 2 blocks together, and then the last year just 1 block together. And that last block in the third year is Media Law and Ethics, which all students need to do. But then you're not working so much in groups, which you'll do in the first year. You'll be working individually, you'll be working on your project, which is kind of our version of the dissertation. And you'll be your own creative, really. That's what you're going to be doing in that third year. So what you don't want to be doing in that third year is being on a course where you're doing advanced digital marketing when the other class are doing advanced journalism, and you're thinking, I really should be there, not here. So at least that first year here gives you the opportunity from, say, this September onwards, you would do the first 3 blocks together. If you got to the end of the third block and you thought, I'm on the wrong course, you could flip. That's happened before. We would make it work for you now. So you could switch from media and comms to journalism or vice versa. I hope what I've told you has been useful, and that you'll come and join us here at UE92, and I look forward to meeting you and hopefully helping you. Thanks for listening.